Welcome to Minutes with Lynnis, brought to you by Wellness Woman 40 and Beyond. Embark on this journey with me, Lynnis Woods Mullins, your certified holistic living and wellness expert for women over 40, as we explore tips for an ever-growing mind, body, and spirit in just a few minutes. Thank you so much, Kimberly, for joining us in the Wellness Woman group, and thank you for taking the time to come for a special edition of Lynnis Minutes. It's wonderful to have you here today. And I told my group that this is especially for those entrepreneurs, for those of you out there, entrepreneurs and coaches who have been in business for a while, maybe you've just started a business, but you just don't feel like you're on the right track. I can tell you with the information that Kimberly is going to share today, you're going to be really excited because there's so much that goes into starting a business. Believe me, if I could tell you, don't do it the way I did it 10 years ago, I will tell you that. Don't do it the way I did it. You want to do it in a way that Kimberly talks about. I got lucky by a lot of trial and error, Kimberly. I have become a successful entrepreneur, but it wasn't always like that. And the thing I love about Kimberly's programs is that she really does relate, of course, to women, but also to the idea of spirituality and the things we need to be thinking about as women as we enter into business. So Kimberly, welcome to the Wellness Woman group and also to Lynnis Minutes. I was wondering if you could share with us how you got into all of this, because you started in a very different background in Wall Street, just like I started in a different background before I came to this. So what motivated you to make that change?
Yeah, I think we've all had that epiphany. Believe the women in your group have had that epiphany as well, which is why they're in that kind of wellness arena, that the lives we were leaving before maybe didn't fulfill us as much, right? So those lives were just, I don't know. I got to the point, I was on Wall Street. I looked very successful from the outside, an apartment in Paris, apartment on Fifth Avenue, and traveled the world. And I mean, by all means, I looked like I should just be like the happiest person on the planet. And I was not. And so I made the decision to leave, which was huge because I had, with 8 other partners, we created a Wall Street firm, a broker dealer. And so we did the crazy stuff. And I mean, we took the company from sitting in a living room to a $165 million company before the market took its little turn in 2008. So we did some really amazing stuff and it was fun, but it just wasn't fulfilling. I knew I was missing something big was missing. So I left and I bounced around a bit. I'd love to say that I immediately found my purpose and that was it. But there was some definite bouncing around. And then I kind of went through my own awakening through a series of events where it became more apparent. I'd always been very intuitive and all that my entire life. My mom was an amazing healer, but it just became more in my face that I needed to be on this journey. And as I did that, I started meeting these great, beautiful people who are so gifted and so talented at helping heal other people. And I kept saying, well, why don't you have a business? And they kept going, I don't know how. For me, business is actually one of my intuitive gifts. I can see someone's business. And so it comes very easy for me. I've built several and it's just, I don't know, it's fun. To me, it's fun. And so I was been able to take my gift of being like intuitive in the business arena and being able to take my love for being in alignment with source and spirituality and living an amazing life and marry those two and show people how to create their own amazing lives that they're serving at the highest level on this planet.
You know, I think that's exciting. And one of the things I think that's exciting is that we all should, first of all, as women, recognize the power of our feminine energy. That's something that they kind of want us to dummy down when you're in corporate America. And I can remember back in the late 70s, early 80s, they had us walking around looking like men with with suits and ties on, trying to, you know, I can see right now that what was the name? It was called Baby Boomer, I think, or Baby Boom or something like that. And one of my favorite actresses, they had her in the tie and the suit and all that.
That's right.
Right, kind of cute, but you know, it was almost like they're trying to dummy down the feminine energy side of things. But the interesting message about that movie, Baby Boom, was that she found a way to have the life of a woman while being successful as what we equate a man's success to be. And I think a lot of that is she went ahead and leveraged those things that were important to her in her life and found a product that could relate to her life and also be successful at the same time. And it was something that she was passionate about. I believe that, you know, the more passionate you are about something, the more you're on your way to your actual treasure. What does it say? Where your passion is, so does your treasure lie. Yeah. And I think that's one of the great things about what it is that you do, because you recognize the feminine energy and what we bring with that, and also help women to, really dig in there and figure out how they can use all of their gifts in a way that will take them not to the 5 figures, but 6 figures and beyond. So tell us a little bit about your programs and how they work.
Sure. Well, it's funny, you're talking about finding that unique quality in each person. Who do they want to serve? What are their gifts? And that's actually my specialty. And I think a big piece that's missed, a lot of times you see business coaches, they're like, I'm going to show you how to do a business, but they're missing that connection. They're missing the alignment of the individual who's actually doing the work. And they're also missing the connection with the clients, because I believe that our clients that we are here to work with, we have a connection. There's a soul connection with them. And so you have to find who you are and what your gifts are. And then how do you take that and then turn it into a business? So in my Spiritual Biz Bootcamp program, which is my core program, this is the one that really, if you're looking to create your 6-figure business, this is where you start. And this business is, or this program is really focused on like who you are. What are your gifts and who are you serving and how are you going to serve them? And it's funny because we just had someone enroll, and this morning I did what we call a kickoff call, and they get to do that call with me. And it's a very intuitive and in alignment call where we're dreaming of the business. We're actually going to manifest and create the ideal client for each individual so that everyone's business is unique to them. And then we go through the process of setting it up. But that's so important. I think it is so missed with most business coaches. Are like, here's the business. And it's like, it's so much more than that. And when you're taking that gift piece, the gift of the person who's actually teaching and healing, along with the gifts that they have and how they're going to implement that and who they're sharing it with, when you put all that together, it actually removes the marketing and sales piece. Because it's no longer about selling. It's not like the kind of uncomfortable marketing. It really becomes about a soul connection with your tribe. And that to me is how I think all business should be run. It should really be done by the soul connection with your people so that there's no uncomfortable sell and buy this. It's like we're really attracting and bringing in the people that want what we have and need what we have.
Absolutely. That's so interesting because that's one of the things that I went through when I was starting my business. I started my business in 2009 and didn't have a clue. And the sad thing was that there weren't a lot of people around like you to give me a clue because it was still new. The mind, body, spirit business, whole wellness industry was beginning to kick in on the internet, but it was still very new and I had no benchmarks. But here is an opportunity to work with someone that has benchmarks in terms of your own success, but then all the success of all the hundreds of women that you've worked with, or maybe thousands by now, Kimberly, because I know that you're way up there in terms of the amount of clients that you've had. But I wanted to know if you could do something for me. And this is, we didn't talk about it earlier, but you're talking about helping a person identify who their ideal client is or who, So let's say I'm your client. Let's kind of do a role play and show me how you go about doing that. Let's say I know that I have a gift, but I don't know what that gift is. I know that I want to work with women and I know I want to make a lot of money.
So, well, I'll give you the synopsis of how I do it. So it's actually, when I work with a client, it's like an hour to an hour and a half call. So it is definitely an intense process and it's kind of a back and forth. And we usually start with the dream because I want to know what they envision their business looking like in 2 or 3 years or 3 years. Like, what can they see? Because sometimes someone's got a very clear vision and sometimes they're not quite as clear as they would hope. Maybe they can see their lifestyle, but they can't see the business. So at least I know where they want to be. And then so that's where we start. So I've got a little foundation. And then we go into like, what fires you up? What really excites you? Because if someone's not super excited about it, it's hard to do. Starting a business is not the easiest thing. It just isn't. If it was super easy, there'd be $1 million companies all over the world. And there's not. There's not $1 million coaches. Like, I'm one of the few. I know I'm in a small niche where I've really dialed in what I'm doing. And so it has to be fun because it takes work. There is some blood, there's some sweat, there's definitely some tears in the process. And so you have to be passionate about what you're doing. So I start with like, what fires you up? So then I can get a good feel for where the person is vibrationally. What is it they want? What makes them excited? Because if they're not excited, then their clients aren't going to be excited. And that doesn't make for a very fun business.
Okay, so let's say I say, well, what fires me up is working with women over 40. Me, working with women over 40 who are striving to live a better life. I like the idea of that.
Yes. And that's also, so that's a really good first start. Now, the way I flip things around, and this is interesting because people, takes them a minute to get it. Once they get it, they'll go, oh, so I'm usually looking at what are we healing for someone. So I actually have my clients create a healing statement, and it says, I heal, and it's the problem that they're healing, that they're solving for their clients. And then the statement goes for whoever their ideal client is. And that's so that they can have this amazing life, whatever that thing is that the client really wants, whatever that is. So I flip it into a healing statement because I'm also teaching people to put a higher dollar amount on their information, on what they're doing, because my clients are transforming people's lives. And when you have a big transformation, that's valuable. I mean, you've changed someone's life completely. That's valuable. And so that being said, I have my clients price their programs around $3,500 for like, say, an 8-week course. So it's a higher price point, but to be able to do the higher price point and for even the client to be comfortable with charging the higher price point, we have to see the real value. And so the real value comes from healing someone, from solving something that is creating and wreaking havoc in their life. Whatever's creating that chaos that needs to be turned around into some order and to some joy.
Right.
So we look around and we say, so what are you healing for somebody? Because when you can heal someone, you can increase your price point. When you just say, I want to help women be happy or be healthy, and that's lovely, but we're missing an emotional connection. So for that program, you could charge $100, $150, a couple $100. But when you go to the $3,000 mark, you really need to be serving at the highest level. And that's when the major transformation changes happen. And then when that transformation happens in an individual, then they actually have an impact. There's a vibrational impact where they affect the next person, the next person, the next person. So I'm all about how do we create the biggest shifts in an individual. And so from that big shift comes back to the healing statement of the I heal. So I would ask you, I would say, so what is it that you heal for your clients?
Okay. Well, I heal women who are feeling totally stressed out and want something different for their lives. And that stress is causing them to be sick and causing them to gain weight, sleeplessness, chronic disease, all kinds of things that happen as a result of being stressed out. And I heal them. I show them how not to be stressed out and how to improve their immune systems and to have a more joyful life.
Perfect. So your healing statement would be along the lines of, I heal the stress and discomfort, like the physical discomfort, right? I heal the stress and that results in physical discomfort for women over 40 who maybe are sick, who are unfulfilled, who are knowing there's something else. And then I would tie it up with so that they can live, this is kind of a generic, but, live the best life and be fulfilled. You know what I mean? And we get more detailed into that, but sometimes there's more, I always tell my clients, the more specific they are, which gets people really nervous because they're like, well, what about the people I'm not talking to?
Right.
And I'm like, the more specific you are, the closer you will be with your tribe. And the more that they can hear you and connect with you. So I would probably get more specific.
I'm glad you mentioned that about being specific, because the reality is, for those of you in the group who are coaches and healers and entrepreneurs, or you're thinking about starting your business, the goal isn't necessarily to do business with every woman on the planet. Okay. The goal is to do business with those people who, what your message is and your product is, that resonates with them. I mean, if you can do a 0.2%, 0.222% of everyone on the planet, that's a lot of women. And narrowing down that message is so important. One of the reasons why I wanted to invite you into the group and to talk about what it is that you do is that I know that we do have women here in the group who are coaches and healers, wellness entrepreneurs of some kind, and women who are thinking about it. And I see their postings, and because usually on Tuesdays, on Talk Tuesday, I allow people to post about their businesses and all that. And I see a lot of that. And the interesting thing is, I think to myself, this is great, but boy, one of the things that they may know, but maybe they don't know, is that a like doesn't equal a dollar. I figured that out after about 3 years. and a zero balance in my account. I was like, okay, what's going on here? So many people like it, but they're not purchasing anything. So talk about that a little bit.
It's totally a trap. And what breaks my heart actually is that when I see people who spent money with a business coach, or they've hired a social media people or marketing people, and they're like, oh, but they're doing X, Y, and Z. They've got some sort of, they're going to put me on YouTube and I'm going to get 30,000 followers and I'm going to do that. And I shake my head and I try to help them, and sometimes I'm not open to be helped. But I'm like, this is not the path. You're missing the point of what you're building. And it like I said, it breaks my heart because those people are not cheap usually. They're charging, a good price point. And yes, their work is valuable, but it's in the wrong order. Mm-hmm. So I see this all the time. So some of the people that come to me the most often usually they have a business. Sometimes they can be brand new and that totally works as well, but they'll come with a business. A lot of them will come with books. So I have a publishing company as well called Spiritual Biz Publishing, where we publish, books that are shifting consciousness. And so they'll come to me with a book or even with a podcast. Mm-hmm. And they're like, I've got all these followers, but I'm not making any money. Right. And so what I do is I back it up and I show them how to connect and how to create a foundation for their business so they can scale it as far as they want. Mm-hmm. And it's a big switch. And I learned it the hard way. Everyone said, you need a podcast. So I went and I started a podcast, which is how we met many years ago.
That's right.
So it was a good connection, but that podcast just cost me money. I was bleeding money for that podcast.
Right.
And then everyone's like, well, you need a members area. And so I went and I built this members area and I did this launch. I did a launch with like $1,000 program, and I spent all this money and I did my webinar and like all the things I was supposed to do. I'd taken the Amy Porterfield classes. I'm like, this is what I'm going to do. And I launched it into in my mind, I'm like, I'm going to have 30 people sign up. This is a $30,000 launch. How could 30 people not want to sign up for this? And I had 3. And they all took the payment option, which I came up with this brilliant idea that it would be $97 a month for 12 months. And so I made less than $300 on that launch. I think I sat on the couch and cried for 2 days. It was horrendous. And so from all of my mistakes, I have learned, and having my own amazing mentors, what not to do. And so I always say my goal is to show people how to make the most amount of money the fastest way while serving at the highest level.
I love that.
Serve at the highest level, then you don't actually have to worry about more clients coming in because word of mouth takes care of that.
Yes. It's interesting because I've done the exact same thing that you're talking about, maybe for a longer period of time, maybe for about 5 years. And then suddenly the light bulb went up about building relationships. You still, even if you're a virtual business, you still have to have that in-person contact. You have to have that. And the minute I added that component, which was crazy, just because I'm virtual doesn't mean I don't ever meet anybody, then that just really began to change the trajectory of my business. But I did it the hard way. I really want to recommend to you ladies, for those of you who want to do it a way that is not hard, that will add value to your business and take you to where you want to go, you should really strongly consider Kimberly's programs. I can definitely vouch for them. I've worked with you in 5 or 6 years now, and I've seen your growth, and I've seen, and some of the people on your team I know as well. And they're awesome, just an awesome group of women who understand some of the components of being a female entrepreneur, but even more specifically, being in the wellness industry. And that's great to have someone that has that understanding because it is different. What we do as wellness practitioners or wellness coaches or entrepreneurs is somewhat esoteric and still kind of woo-woo to some people, depending on which component you're doing. So you already are starting with an interesting, label for some people who don't understand the whole wellness industry. So you have that to overcome. So you definitely want to be able to get out of your own way when it comes to your messaging and when it comes to delivering a product and service that people want. Now, I know you have some things coming up in the near future. So tell us about that.
Sure. So, we just launched Spiritual Biz Publishing. So that's a big piece. And so that will be, I have a vision and I'll share the vision. And so people kind of get to know me a little bit better, but I know I'm building an empire. And I know that there will be many arms and this company will be around for many years. And the publishing part is a big piece because I was seeing how, there's, especially for spiritual entrepreneurs, there's Hay House. That's really kind of one of the only places where you can get your books published.
Right.
And I've watched what they've done, and it's It's not good. It's not helpful. It's not serving the clients. It's not serving the authors. And so authors really get stuck in a between a rock and a hard place a lot of times. And if you get a traditional publisher, you no longer have the rights to your information. So then you're left with self-publishing, or you're stuck in the middle. It's so interesting. And I think the biggest crime in publishing is that no one shows you how to monetize your book.
Right.
No one does that.
Yeah.
And so what I've created, it's kind of this, it's very unique. It's different than any other publisher I've seen out there, but it's a cross between a traditional and I don't even call it self-publishing, but it's traditional and kind of this hybrid. It's more of a hybrid, but I'm showing you how to actually monetize your books and also publishing it, and then using the engine that I've created with my company to support the whole thing. So that's the newest arm of it. And then of course we have Spiritual Biz Bootcamp, which is our core program, which is a 12-week program that everybody goes through and comes out completely transformed. No matter how it looks at the end, it's a complete transformation. A lot of people go with massive personal transformation. Some of the people, their businesses just expand in ways they had no idea. So that's a lot of fun. And then we're just getting ready to launch something called Spiritual Biz Leadership, which will be a monthly, and it's geared towards people who just aren't quite ready. Like they just don't know. They're afraid to put their foot in the water, and maybe they're in scarcity. Maybe they haven't mastered the money piece yet, and they don't really know what it means to step out as a spiritual leader yet. So that's launching in January as well. So we're expanding as the company's grown. You see the holes that you're missing, and how do you serve more? How can you serve more people so that they can then completely transform their lives and shift the vibration of the planet?
That's fantastic. I love that idea about the transforming life and shifting the vibration of the planet. I think we can all agree that we could use a shift these days, because it is crazy. That's for sure. So for people who want to get in touch with you and find out more, what's the best way?
Sure. So I'm going to have a free training for you guys. So if you go to Spiritual Biz, that's BIZ success.com. That is a page where you can go learn more about my training and watch that free training. It's about a 45-minute training. At the end of that training, you can book a call to speak with my team. If you're like, this feels like I'm in vibrational alignment, this is something I'm interested in, and you qualify based off of everything that's in the video, you can book a call with my team. We'd love to talk to you and kind of look at what does it look like for your business. Where are you? Are you ready for boot camp? Maybe you're not. Maybe you're ready for leadership. We can see where the best spot is for you. If you've got a book or a podcast out there and you're trying to monetize it, this is the perfect spot for you. So you can watch that free training. Like I said, it's about 45 minutes. You get a feel for how I teach, and because I've got some unique perspectives, because I do marry spirituality and business, and which a lot of people have a trouble when I start talking about money, but money is just energy. And so when we are in flow and connected to source energy, the energy of money just flows to us. So when we're in scarcity, we know there's a bit of a disconnect. So I teach about that, and sometimes that makes people uncomfortable, but those who get it love it. So you'll learn about how I teach in that free training. And again, at the end of that, you can book a call with my team.
You know, I noticed, I'm glad that you mentioned that about the whole thing about talking about money and all that, because that was another issue that I had too. I wanted to make money, but I didn't want to talk about it.
Oh, I know. People are so afraid of money. I don't know. I do know where that came from, and it was rooted in something in my childhood. I was very blessed to, grow up in a upper middle class family. But I remember for many years, and I didn't realize that it had this kind of impact on me. My mother, she was the one who paid the bills and took care of everything. My dad would just basically, here's the paycheck, and she did whatever. And on Sunday nights, once a month, she would sit in the dining room. And there would be this, and this is, back in the 60s and 70s, there'd be a big plastic bag, big paper bag there where she would throw away the envelopes or whatever after she finished with them. And then there would be her checkbook. And then she would be writing the checks and putting them in the envelopes, that kind of thing. She always would have a big glass of wine in the dining room table, and she would usually have her bathrobe on, and she would be like this, and it seemed like such a miserable exercise. I remember that so well. And then the next morning when I would get up, that big old paper bag would still be there, the empty glass of wine, but the checkbook is gone, and then the pile of envelopes are there, but it just didn't look like it was a fun thing, And so that planted a picture in my mind for years. And I didn't really work that out until I got blessed with working with a therapist who helped me with that piece. And I also worked with a wonderful woman by the name of Keisha Dixon,
who does tapping, and that helped me too with that piece. But I had to basically hire someone like you to help me get to that, because that was just like a memory that was just there that I hadn't even thought about. But as I started digging deep to figure out, well, what is this thing with money? Because I've never had money problems. I've always made money. So what is this thing? Why don't I like to talk about it? And there it is. My poor mom on Sunday nights with a glass of wine, writing up it. That was it. And once I realized that and released it, then I started building better memories. And I started learning about flow and allowing, and we'll have to talk next time when you come back, if you would come back, about making money by meditating.
Yeah, I could talk about money for hours. I actually have a book coming out probably at the end of 2020 that's called Money is Love, because it really needs to be discussed and it needs to be seen for what it is and not what we've been told about money.
Yes, so, that's true, because we have a tendency to, but I've learned about allowing and getting into the flow. I've been listening a lot to Abraham Hicks, which is just a whole hoot. Whether you believe in the channeling, whatever's going on, the bottom line is what comes out of her mouth, wherever it comes from, is very interesting and will give you aha moments. And it's much like when you get a chance to work with somebody like Kimberly, all of a sudden you're like, wow, yes. And it was right there the whole time, but you just needed that little push and guidance in terms of how to use this new information that you just learned about yourself or your company or your product or business. So I highly recommend Kimberly Maska.
If anyone has any additional questions, you can post them below. I'm sure she'll let me take a peek in there. And again, Spiritual Biz. So everything with me is Spiritual Biz. So B-I-Z. So there's Spiritual Biz Bootcamp, Spiritual Biz Success is my Facebook group. You can join me there. But spiritualbizsuccess.com is where you want to go to watch my free training. So watch that free training, see if we are a vibrational match. And if we are, then reach out and book a call with my team. We'd love to talk to you and see how we can get your business to 6 figures and beyond. And have a great day.
Thanks so much for tuning in. If you have something to share, please comment below. For more Wellness Woman videos, be sure to click the subscribe button below and check out my Facebook group, Wellness Woman 40 and Beyond. But most importantly, don't forget to love yourself and educate, encourage, and empower your mind, body, spirit, wellness.